Hunter Biden warned ex-partner Devon Archer about the potential violations of FARA, the Foreign Agents Registration Act, before he took that board seat for Ukrainian energy company Burisma. Apparently, following those rules included buying a burner phone, which Hunter Biden advised Devon Archer to do at a 7-Eleven where you can go to a CVS. Biden IRS whistleblower Gary Shapley is calling on Congress to demand access to more witnesses so they can shed light on possible wrongdoing by the entire First Family. Republican Scott Perry, who sits on oversight, wants to hear more as well.
We can't emphasize enough how important it is that they continue to bring in witnesses, because each witness that comes in is providing more and more evidence, and it cannot be denied.
I think that we're going to find out a lot more information about the crimes that were committed not only by Hunter Biden, but by his associates and maybe potentially his father.
Former Trump campaign manager and advisor Corey Lewandowski with a scathing op-ed titled "The Biden Family Syndicate is What Real Power Looks Like." Tammy Bruce, Fox News contributor. I made the comment earlier that, burner phones for cartels, serial killers, people cheating on their spouses.
Right.
Like, okay.
I mean, I've never tried to get a burner phone, which is like good news, so you probably haven't either.
No.
What's interesting is that this shows, he's been described as really as dumb as a post, Hunter Biden, by the Ukrainians, just a dumb guy. But he had what's known as the mens rea in a legal sense, that what he was about to do was probably or was wrong, and that it needed to be covered up, and that cover-up started before he started at that position, knowing what it meant and knowing what it would mean to him and for the government and for his father. But instead of saying, wait a minute, this is like wrong, it was, how do we make this happen? So this tells you, it reinforces, yes, who the Biden family is, but this entire dynamic. Everyone is saying now, we knew the Bidens, did these kinds of things. This is what they do. And yet that, as with Mr. Shapley, involved in one of the investigations with the IRS, shows us how things can be slow-walked, how people can be protected by this government, and the Trump situation, of course, showing us how things can go overboard, off the cliff, when they want to punish you. So that is the power. Real power is what the government is doing now when it comes to its abuse of power, because that's what Americans aren't supposed to do, and certainly not our government.
Well, look, what you're talking about are judgment calls by Hunter Biden. And whenever we question those, the White House and the president himself say, the president loves his son. I love my son, and he was having issues with drugs, so on and so forth. If you know that much, and a relative can put the kind of pressure on you that puts an entire country at risk, maybe you pay a little bit more attention to them. And the argument is, through those 20 phone calls on speakerphone that Hunter Biden, we now know through Devon Archer, definitely put his dad on.
Right.
Maybe that was dad paying attention and making sure everything was going to be okay. It would be absolutely inside the bounds to question that of the president.
That would be part of his job with the positions he had as a senator, as the vice president and president.
As a parent with a child having issues.
With that, you have your responsibility. If you really love your son, you stop this. If you really love your family, you stop this. When you take that oath of office, you're in the highest office, not only in this land, but of the power in the world. And that is your excuse. That also tells us that Biden knew exactly what he was doing. When that becomes his excuse, as unserious as it is, it tells you that that's always been the plan, to just kind of placate the American people into letting you do what you've been doing for the last 50 years.
Yeah, well, if it works for you, why would you try to change it? Here's a flashback of a 2018 voicemail from Joe to Hunter Biden. Remember this?
Hey, pal, it's Dad. It's 8:15 on Wednesday night. If you get a chance, give me a call. Nothing urgent. Just want to talk to you. I thought the article, at least the thing online, it's going to be printed tomorrow in the Times, was good. I think it's clear.
Tammy.
Well, he loves his son so much, he wants to prepare him. He gets involved when we're looking at the exposure of him being on that board and what might be happening, and articles exposing more of that kind of behavior. There's Dad wanting to give him a hand.
Let me ask you, with the words, you're clear. You're clear of what?
Right. Yeah. What's interesting is that they felt so comfortable, and he felt so comfortable to even leave that message It's like people who are comfortable doing these texts and emails. When you're being corrupt to some degree, you stop thinking that anyone is going to take notice of the nature of what you're doing. So that also shows you that this is a man who has had a lot of experience, Joe Biden, and that is still what he's doing. Keep in mind, what would the interest be? The money. There is an enormous amount of money. We've just started to touch the surface. That's what the whistleblowers are complaining about. The amount of money that was going to a variety of family members of the Biden family. Mm-hmm. It's love is wonderful. We all want love. We all love our families. We do. And yet when there's money, when this is the nature of what you're doing, our country has always deserved better. And for the system to move this man into the White House tells you that they needed someone who was so into the pit that he could be controlled and that they would take control back of the swamp.
So that's an interesting perspective. It isn't just about those retaining power. It's also about having somebody that they can put their thumb on if they
Correct.
need to or have to. More people ought to pay attention to that voicemail. I mean, I unearthed it again last night and listened to it.
Great job. That's great work.
Thank you. We all can do it. Clear of work. There's only one thing that anybody ever worries about, and that's a crime. What are you clear of?
Yeah.
A sniffly nose?
Right.
No.
Right. So getting mocked? No. It's something much more serious. For his father in his position to leave that as a recording, it was that serious.
Yeah. Tammy Bruce, it's always great to have you in Focus.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.